Climate change is posing a real challenge to development in Africa. How this challenge affects the continent's development strategies has not been sufficiently thought out today. More than ever, Africa must rethink its development trajectory. The 2022 African Economic Conference will be critical in engaging this reflection around the development pathway needed by Africa under the climate change era. COP27 negotiations resulted in a weak agreement, and Africa needs to move forward with actions now. The African continent and small island nations are on the front line of bold climate actions and plans to limit temperature rising to 1.5 degrees Celsius. It is high time to implement new solutions. Africa is a land of promises and opportunities. Africa has an abundance of natural resources in the form of wind, solar, hydroelectric, and geothermal energy. It also has mineral resources essential to electric batteries, wind turbines, and other low-carbon technologies. Investment in renewable energy in Africa has increased tenfold over the past decade. However, despite the immense promise of the energy transition, Africa only received 2% of the $2.8 trillion invested in renewables globally between 2000 and 2020. Climate finance inflows to Africa have failed to match the commitments from the global north. More concrete action needs to be taken now. Leveraging innovation and investments is no longer a choice, but a necessity. The 2022 African Economic Conference is an opportunity to shift the conversation to Africa's enormous potential to exploit renewable energy sources through a just energy transition and sustainable land use as investments in Africa's future.
Africa is the most vulnerable region to climate disasters. This conference is of particular relevance to Mauritius as a small island state and also vulnerable to the consequences of climate change. Nonetheless, Mauritius has made significant efforts in building climate resilience and transition to a low-carbon economy.
African countries continue to pay the price of a crisis that they have not created. However, these countries are not playing the victim card. They are investing significant resources of their own to address and mitigate the impact of climate change.
The theme of this year's African Economic Conference, Supporting Climate-Smart Development in Africa, builds on the outcomes of COP27 to enable established academics and young researchers alike to present solution-oriented research to policymakers and decision-makers on how to strengthen Africa's response to climate change and its ripple effects.
This conference is a unique one to allow policymakers, leaders, the private sector, and African youths and women and researchers to discuss how Africa can move forward to mobilize resources for supporting climate-smart development in Africa, to do research and innovation to produce technologies that will allow Africa to leapfrog its development in the new development transitions, and bring African women and youths opportunities that come from climate change.
We must flip the development script and create new models that are fit for a climate-smart future.
This conference is about bold, homegrown solutions and action-oriented approaches that boost growth, foster energy transition, and climate-smart agriculture. We must develop sustainably now to safeguard our future.